On the 17th of July, just 13 days before Greater Manchester go to the polls to cast their vote, the Nursing and Midwifery Council imposed an 18-month interim suspension on Marlon West, Restore Britain's candidate for Mayor of Greater Manchester. He is a registered mental health nurse with more than 30 years of service in the NHS across this region. He's also the father of a rape gang survivor. And to understand what has happened, I will walk you through the details of why this has happened and why Marlon has been suspended as a mental health nurse. This is an interim order, so it's a temporary restriction while the process continues, yet the decision was made, and according to Marlon himself, he first discovered he had been suspended from the Manchester Evening News. So imagine that, finding out that you've just been suspended from your practice of 30 years via the press, not by them themselves. That fact alone should concern every fair-minded person, in my view. Marlon West, as we know, is not a career politician. He's a local man who has spent 3 decades working with some of the most vulnerable people in Greater Manchester as a mental health nurse. His daughter, Scarlett, was a victim of the rape gangs. Marlon has spent years campaigning relentlessly for a proper national inquiry into the rape gangs. He's met ministers, leaders of the opposition as well, and he's challenged the authorities. He's obviously worked with survivors and played a central role in the independent rape gang inquiry led by the party leader, Rupert Lowe. This is one of the reasons why he joined us, because he trusts Rupert, he trusts us to get it done, to actually fulfill promises. He's also spoken publicly and repeatedly and without apology about what happened to his own child and about the wider patterns of abuse that institutions have continuously failed again and again. Everything that follows has to be understood against that background from Marlon. The Nursing and Midwifery Council's case rests entirely on particular social media posts. There are no clinical allegations, no malpractice or patient safety concerns, nothing to do with that. All of the complaints are all on social media posts, that's it. When criticised online about his own daughter, where a user in a discussion on a private Facebook group, Marlon was referring to the injuries his daughter received at the hands of one of these rape gangs, his offending language was, "This is what Pakistanis do after being raped and tortured. My daughter, you sicko." Others include, "Ban Afghans from entering the UK." You have to understand, these comments were made by a father whose own daughter has been a victim of the very crime he's been describing. The NMC, Nursing and Midwifery Council panel, decided that these posts demonstrated discriminatory attitudes serious enough to justify suspending him from the nursing register on both public protection and public interest grounds. And this order, just coincidentally, was imposed on the 17th of July, which is right in the middle of a mayoral election campaign that ends on the 30th of July. And then the full determination appears in the hands of the Manchester Evening News before Marlon himself has been properly notified. So make of that of what you will. The NMC's own guidance on freedom of expression states that nurses are free to express personal beliefs outside work, and that the regulator will only act in rare cases where the conduct suggests a deep-seated attitudinal problem and is serious enough to damage public confidence. The panel decided this was one of those rare cases. The BBC also ran an article where they approached the NMC for comment on whether the suspension was timed due to the upcoming mayoral elections, and the NMC said the timing of the suspension was, quote, driven solely by our regulatory processes. A spokesman said, quote, we're clear that everyone has the right to freedom of thought and expression. We won't take action simply because something a professional has said has caused offence. Yeah, clearly, even though you've suspended the man. This is obviously clearly bigger than just one man and one set of posts online. When a father has spent years fighting for his daughter and other victims, is suspended from his profession in the middle of an election campaign, and when the decision appears in newspapers before he has even been told, people are entitled to ask whether the system is being used to punish speech rather than protect. Well, Marlon has said he's going to challenge the order and he will continue to stand in this election. The people of Greater Manchester will make their own judgment on the 30th of July, and they can decide whether they want a mayor who has spent decades in the NHS and years fighting for the victims of the rape gangs, or whether they prefer the quiet that institutions have preferred for far too long. Under Labour, it will be for the Greens if they win, and the Conservatives. So the election is on the 30th of July. The choice is clear. Vote Marlon West.